my life, my purpose is I don't know my life and my purpose. I really don't, man.
Well,
I mean, that's why I'm loved, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you caught me pretending I was drawing. I'm Mike Wolfer, and this is Graphic Tales, the YouTube show for comic book creators, comic book publishers, comic book readers, and anybody that can envision themselves behind the wheel of a brand new 1968 Ford Country Squire. Now, this is just about comics, usually. Last week, I mentioned that I was going to touch back on something from episode 2. I guess maybe I need like a editor's footnote at the bottom here or something. What I want to talk about is, and I know this sounds crazy because I'm trying to tell you to go for your dream, and if you want to be a writer, be a writer. If you want to be an artist, be an artist. Stick to your guns and practice. But I also say you should learn some other skills too, just in case. You know, I mean, I don't want to sound defeatist, but it's a tough business, and you need to have fallbacks. So here's a little story I want to tell you. Now, I'm a comic book writer and artist and a publisher and all of that stuff. Because I'm a publisher, I have to do all the computer work in order to prep all of the files for publication, right? Now, I was working for American Mythology Productions, and they had licensed several Edgar Rice Burroughs properties, including Carson of Venus. And when we were talking about Carson of Venus, like, hey, what can we do? And I said, well, I have some ideas for some series and some people we can talk to that have some ideas of their own. But there is an adaptation of A Princess of Venus, which was the first Carson novel. It was published by Edgar Rice Burroughs. There was an adaptation of that in comics form that DC put out in the 70s. Full color, had art by Mike Kaluta, which was absolutely gorgeous. So we said, hey, let's reprint that. So we contacted ERB Inc. Unfortunately, they did not have any digital assets for that because that was, way back before digital production. So they didn't have any files they could give us. So we said, okay, so how do we publish this thing? We have to buy the comics and scan the comics and try to clean them up. So I was asked if I knew anything about that. I'm like, well, I've scanned stuff before, and I've reprinted my own stuff from print copies before. I know how to do it a little bit. I hadn't done full color, but I can figure it out. So I toyed with it a little bit, did a couple of samples, and I'm like, hey, this is much easier than I thought. Sure, we can do this. So we did. So I scanned those old stories, cleaned them up, which means, if you've ever seen an old comic, the print quality is usually pretty bad because, because the printing itself was not always that great, and also too, they're printed on newsprint, which is yellowed over the years. So when you scan an old comic book, you've got this like yellowish brown to all of the whites, and it just looks crappy. So I sharpened it all up, made the whites white, made the black, and did some little cleanup of the colors where they had shifted. Now, another thing too, when you look at the old comic books, 4-color process color, right? Four color process, yeah, whatever. Anyhow, you sometimes see like the red or the magenta is like way off on a page, or the yellow is off, or the cyan is off, and it just looks weird. Now the reason for that, I might as well go into this. The reason for that is, here's how a web press works. You've got a big roll of paper, and you've got a cylinder that has ink wells with it. On that cylinder go the plates. that have the image of the comic page, right? Let's say you're just printing one page. You've got the black, a plate for the black. You've got a plate for the cyan, a plate for the magenta, a plate for the yellow. And they're accompanying ink wells, of those colors of ink. The paper goes through, the cylinders rotate, and they imprint on that paper as it goes through. Boom, black, boom, yellow, blue, cyan, blue, magenta. Now, the presses are flying usually. When they get up to speed, they're going really, really fast. There's a lot of vibration and everything. They're incredible machines. Because of that vibration, sometimes the cylinders holding the plates, they shift a little bit. Or even due to human error, you put the plate on, it's a little bit crooked, it doesn't line up. So once the pages, the printed book comes out at the end of the press people check it out and they go, oh, okay, unit 3, we need to bring the yellow over a little bit. And they make an adjustment and it shifts that cylinder over just a little bit so that it's in register with the black and the yellow or the other 3 inks, right? Old comics, I think they were just pumping them out. They were just like, who cares? We got another 1 million that we have to print today, So the quality is kind of off. And this reminds me of something too that I actually prepared ahead of time. The colors that we see in a comic are not real. Like in old comics. The 4-color process. When you see green on a page, that's not green ink. It's yellow ink with blue on top of it, blue dots, and I know you know what I'm talking about. All those little dots. Purple is not purple. It's blue with red dots or red with blue dots. Whichever. There was a real famous or infamous panel from Amazing Spider-Man 157, where Spidey was battling Doc Ock, and he went through somebody's window, went into this woman's apartment. He didn't have any pants on. At least that's the way it looked, because part of his lower portion of him was supposed to be blue, and the blue, there was a mistake made with the overlay cutters. So there was no blue. So there was only little red dots. Supposed to be blue with red dots to make it a deep blue. That's not what printed. The blue was gone, so we only had red dots. It looked like flesh color. Anyhow, what was I talking about? Oh yes, reprinting old comics. Okay, so we reprinted the Princess of Venus, it was Carson of Venus story. We reprinted that. It looked great. Now, word got out that I knew how to do this, that I knew how to remaster comics. And Dynamite Entertainment was planning on doing some reprints of some old, it was Vampirella at the time. They were reprinting some Vampirella comics, and then they were, they had plans to do some other stuff, including Elvira and, I'll get to that. Anyhow, they contacted the publisher at American Mythology and said, hey, do you know anybody that does remastering of comics? They said, yeah, Mike Wolford does it. He did our Carson of Venus story. They looked at that and they say, wow, how much does he charge? So now I had to figure out how much I'm going to charge. So I did a little poking around, and I found out what the going price was. Now I know how much work went into it, and I know that much of that work is done through filters. And you can, in Photoshop, you can record your filters, meaning you can record the steps you take in cleaning up a page, record the whole thing. Then when you bring up the next page, you hit the button and it goes through all those steps for you. So I knew how much time it really takes to remaster a comic. So I found out what the going rate was, and I told them I would charge them 1/3 of what it was. Now, is still good money, but it's a third what these other people are charging, which is outrageous. The prices I heard was like, you got to be kidding me. You know, you can get an artist to draw a page for that amount, and you're just scanning it and cleaning it up. So when Dynamite heard my price, they were like, "You're hired." And I said, "Great, let me get started." Now, one job led to another because I was fast, I was efficient, I was communicative, which is very, very important. Always keep in constant communication with the people you're working for. Because if you disappear, they start thinking, maybe we need to hire somebody else. That's usually the first thing that people think. They flaked out on us and we need to get somebody else. You stay in communication with them, keep them updated, do the work good, do it fast. And then you get another job after that. And then you get another job after that. I have remastered all of Dynamite's, what all have I done? Gargoyles. They reprinted all the old Gargoyles comics. I did all of that. I did all of Darkwing Duck. I did all of Elvira. That was black and white. And just recently I finished all of the Thundercats, which is actually, they're crowdfunding that right now. Like big omnibus reprints of those books. So there's my lesson for you, kids. Even though this is about comics, about creating comics, learn some other things. Be open and expand your horizons. If you're a writer, find out how artists work and what works best for them and how best to communicate with them. Don't stay in your own little bubble and say, I'm a writer and I'm going to do whatever I want. To hell with the artist. No, you need to know what the artist needs from you, because an artist might get a script and say, this does me absolutely no good. A lot of writers, for example, get extremely long-winded, and their panel descriptions are like 3 or 4 paragraphs long. All you have to say is, the guy pulled the burnt toast out of the toaster. That's what's in the panel. That's what the artist needs to know. Instead, some of these writers are like, it was a dreary morning. He had much on his mind that day when he rolled out of bed. Who cares? That's not in the panel. What's in the panel is the burnt toast, right? That's the important thing. So, same with artists. Don't just focus only on your job. What you need to do is look at lettering and understand how lettering works and how lettering and writing work in conjunction. Because you have to make sure as an artist that you're leaving enough room in the panel for the word balloons. You also, oh boy, I'm on a rant now, look out. Artists, you also need to look at that panel description very carefully and look at the dialogue that's written. And if it says, the order of dialogue is, character 1 says this, then character 2 responds with that. In Western civilization, we read left to right. Is it left to right? Yeah, we read left to right. Caption or balloon 1 needs to be over on the left. Balloon 2 needs to be over on the right. Therefore, if at all possible, you need to put character 1 on the left so they will be under their word balloon, so that you don't have 2 characters with their word balloons switched and you've got tails going back and forth and all of that stuff. Like there's so many like little tricks that you can learn if you're open to learning. You need to be open to learning. Letterers, I got nothing for you because you guys are perfect. And colorists, well, coloring is a whole different thing, and I'd like to do a whole episode on that. That's one of my favorite things is the color that I've been getting from the artists that I have been working with who color my stuff. Oh my, unbelievable. So that's that. Learn, and keep learning. Get outside of your bubble and figure out what everybody else needs, because it is a team effort. Unless you're doing it all yourself, and then the hell with everybody else. You'll find out you'll be shooting yourself in the foot and saying, why the hell did I draw this way? I should have done it this way, because now I'm in trouble with the word balloons. And, why did I write all of that stuff? I'm drawing it. I know what it's going to be. Why did I waste my time? So, yeah. So there's my story. Oh, and by the way, so here's the whole point of the whole thing about learning other tasks. Like learning how to do other things. I didn't get into this business to be a comic book. What's the word? Not refurbisher. What is it? Well, I didn't get into the business so that I could scan old comic books. That's not what I do. However, I learned how to do it, and then I got job after job after job. And let me tell you something. Even with me taking 1/3 of the page rate that other people were charging, the money that comes in is almost equal to what I make publishing my own work in one year. It's really good, and I never expected that. So now I'm like, yes, more reprints. I'd love to, If I get the email, I jump on it. Yes, absolutely, I'll do it. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, have a Campari, relax, be good at what you do, and then learn some other things on top of that. Okay, I guess that's it for this week. I hope this squeaky chair wasn't bothering you too much. I'm going to have to look into that probably. I'm going to watch this episode and I'm going to say, squeaky chair's got to go. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, too, if you want to get up with me for any reason, like maybe to suggest topics that I can discuss, or, if you have any specific questions about comics in general, or publishing in general, or about me and my work and the things that I put out, whatever. If you've got any questions at all that you would like to see me answer here on this show, you can get up with me in multiple places. So I made this cool little graphic thing that I'm gonna. Here it is. So any of these places down here, this is where you can find me. Yeah, so send me a message. Let me know what you want to hear me babble about. And let me know what you don't want to hear. And I'm still going to talk about it. If you don't want to hear it, I'm still going to do it. So anyhow, thank you very much for watching. Next week, I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. I'll have to think about it. Maybe it'll be about comics. Maybe not. Who knows? Anyhow, thanks a lot. See you guys later.